Good morning, Mishak. It's Thursday, January 28th, and thanks for telling me a story yesterday. As promised, I also have a story for you today, but it's a long one, so let's get started. So, a little context before we get into this. 2 years ago, I had a crush on a girl named Sarah, who's part of our friend group, and whose house is close to a destination of a road trip that we were taking during spring break. She didn't know it yet, but pretty much everyone else did. More background, I own a 1996 Jeep Grand Cherokee, and as much as I love the car, 26-year-old cars are prone to little breakdowns here and there. So, we were driving on the expressway towards Sarah's house when I heard something from the front of my car. At first, I thought it was the road, but suddenly it became apparent that it was really my car. I decided I couldn't ignore it, so we all pulled over, I popped the hood, and looked for problems. There was a tiny amount of fluid in the front of the car, but I figured it was water or coolant or something like that, and we were only 7 minutes away from Sarah's house, so I figured I would wait to get there and then see what the problem was. We all piled back into our cars and started driving, but as the sounds got louder and louder, I knew that I couldn't ignore it. So when I saw an Autozone sign on the side of the road, I figured it was a sign from God and decided to take that exit. As I turned towards that exit, I very quickly discovered what my problem was. Suddenly, my steering wheel was super stiff. It was like trying to pull an elephant through concrete. But we made the exit and slowly but surely made our way to the Autozone, which was only 2 turns away, but which took us like 8 minutes to get to because I had to turn for so long. So we arrive at the Autozone and I pop my hood and it's a completely different story. There's red fluid everywhere, and a very obvious hole in my power steering pump. The pump which had been gushing what looked like blood onto my entire engine. So I panic and go into AutoZone and ask if they have the power steering pump that I need. When it turns out that they didn't, I asked if they had a mechanic, and one of the guys says, "I have a buddy that works on cars." Good enough for me. So as I wait for him to arrive, I take everyone in the backseat of my car to Sarah's house, which is only a few minutes away. Keep in mind, the entire time that I'm doing this, I am yanking my steering wheel, pulling the car towards wherever I'm trying to go. After a few minutes, I get back. So now, I'm sitting in my broken car, in the cold, in the rain, in the dark, while every one of my friends is eating soup at my crush's house and talking to her parents, who I desperately want to impress. I had lost my jacket earlier in the trip, and I had also lost a pair of keys. And I thought, things can only get better from here. Right? Wrong. I wait like 20 minutes, and the mechanic shows up high as a kite with no sense of urgency. But, having no other option, I ask him to take a look, and he quickly figures out a solution: to use a part from a different model of my car and make it work. Well, long story short, the fix took 3 hours, $300, really awkward conversation, and my labor because he was too high to focus on the job. But whatever, the car gets fixed eventually, and I'm off. I race over to Sarah's. I arrive only to discover that her parents aren't even there. They had stepped out and would be back shortly. So I scarfed down some bread and some soup. I talked to Sarah's parents for all of 3 minutes, and then, because I had a 4-hour drive ahead of me still, everyone insisted I take a nap. So instead of impressing my crush's parents, I was sleeping in her sister's bed. After I woke up, I got in the car and we made our way back to campus that very same night. Some cherries on top? Well, we had visited a petting zoo earlier that day, so I smelled like a farm the whole time. I had slept maybe 5 minutes the night before because I was sleeping on the floor. Oh, and the headlights of my car weren't working entirely. They were pointed up and towards the sky, so when I was making the drive home at 1 a.m., I had barely any visibility. I hope I captured the drama of this. Mishak, I'll see you tomorrow.
Oh, sorry, Sam.